Screw you, Lectrosonics. Not really. Let me explain. Who is Lectrosonics? The easiest way to find out is to go to almost any TV or film set and ask the audio person if they ever heard of Lectrosonics. If, in their bag, they have equipment from Lectrosonics. I've never done that. I don't work on TV sets or movie sets. So how do I know? I know by reading interviews, by watching professionals explain their work on YouTube, by reading Lectrosonics product literature on AV equipment seller websites. But is that real knowledge? For a couple of years, I've been trying to alert young filmmakers, or any filmmaker, to what I believe is fraudulent marketing claims about 32-bit float as a way to make the gain knob obsolete or to eliminate clipping. Why can't someone from Lectrosonics back me up, or any audio professional working on a TV or movie set? It must be because I'm wrong about 32-bit float, and they don't want to get into it with me. I mean, you can't fix stupid, right? I'll just have to live with the Dunning-Kruger effect. Or is it other reasons professionals don't want to get into it? I'm going to argue that Lectrosonics is backing me up in their own way. The first is they don't advocating wasting memory on 32-bit float. The quality they can get in 24-bit cannot be improved with more bits. However, Lectrosonics also offers 32-bit float, which is only their 24-bit files padded with zeros. This isn't to say Lectrosonics isn't using a new trick which might be used in 32-bit float recorders that claim to reduce clipping. But they do it with 24-bit, that is, Lectrosonics does. Again, 32-bit float has nothing to do with clipping. It's wasted space, in my opinion. Therefore, Lectrosonics does not call it 32-bit float, which wouldn't make sense to professional audio engineers. They call it split gain, which does make sense and which I'll get into later. Professional audio recorders have had techniques to reduce or eliminate clipping long before digital audio, around 100 years old at this point. Those techniques are built into Lectrosonics equipment because many engineers will continue to use them instead of split gain, which has a trade-off. Everything has trade-offs. That technique was first called, and is still called, a limiter. When the first radio stations went on air, what happened when a singer sang too loudly into their mic? Clipping. We don't know when this happened or who exactly came up with the fix. If you do, write it in the comments. The solution was to add a circuit to the amplifier so that if a voltage starts to reach a specified level, it would decrease the amount of voltage input. It's a simple feedback loop or regulator. You can find them in all manner of mechanical devices from cars to amplifiers. The trade-off in audio is that we want a one-to-one relationship for every voltage of a microphone to a voltage we end up using from the amplifier. When it reduces voltage near clipping, it squishes the amplitudes, which changes fidelity. Instead of 1-to-1, it becomes 1-to-2 or 1-to-3, etc. It's a deep subject in itself, the construction and use of limiters. Lectrosonics allows you to use a technology with exactly the types of trade-offs you want. Next, in the 1970s, with digital recording of audio, we are able to use another digital technique to reduce the perception of clipping. We use digital signal processors, DSP, for all kinds of useful modifications: compression, noise removal, echo, etc. Basically, a computer chip analyzes the data and rewrites it to sound the way we want it to sound. However, I can't stress this enough. With digital processing, there's always some amount of fidelity sacrificed. So it's always better to get it right the first time. There's a third theorized way to remove clipping. There's little documentation or technical descriptions of how it works and what trade-offs it has. As I mentioned, 32-bit float alone doesn't fix clipping because microphone amplifiers, commonly called preamps, can't produce an analog signal that essentially doesn't become more noise than signal past 12 bits. But call it 16 bits. If you insist, call it 24 bits. But seriously, for most microphones and uses, let's agree on 16 bits. Digital audio recorders work by preamping a tiny microphone voltage to a level that can be digitized by electronic circuits, generally above 1 volt, if not 3 or 6 volts. Once the line level voltage is reached, the circuit will sample it X times a second. The industry standard is 48,000 times a second, so every 48th every 48 thousandths of a second of voltage from the microphone is applied to the base of a transistor. I'm going to say a single transistor for the sake of simplicity, though many are involved. The tiny voltage will be amplified and then sent to circuits which digitize it. When we work the gain knob, we set the amount of voltage that goes into the transistor, which will hopefully mirror exactly the fluctuations of tiny voltages hitting the base of the transistor from the microphone. How much voltage we feed into the transistors changes how they react to voltages from the microphone, which range from some X to Y. Clipping happens when the amplifier produces a voltage from the microphone voltage that the equipment can't handle. If they speak too loudly, say they bend their head down and speak, directly into the microphone like this, an inch away, the amplifier will generate a voltage the analog digital circuit can't deal with. So all the large voltages produced past the maximum voltage the ADC can deal with will get the same voltage number. If the maximum voltage an ADC can deal with is 1 volt, then 1.1, 1.3, and 1.7 voltages, for example, will all end up recorded as 1 volt. How might we fix that in a different way? From analog limiters or digital processors? Maybe something hybrid. What if every odd 96 thousandths of a second, like 135, we applied a low voltage to our microphone amplifier, and then for every even 96 thousandths of a second, 256, we applied a high voltage? We'd have two different gain settings, two different 48 kilohertz audio samples. We take all the even samples and save them to one file, the low gain file, and then all the odd samples and save them to another file, the high gain file. We'd assume we'd always use the high gain file, but if we get clipping, we switch to the low gain file. What are we doing? We're splitting the gain. That's why Lectrosonics called it split gain. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what they're doing. They're not telling us, which is too bad because as nice as that theory is, I don't believe it can work in real life. The reason is that amplifying a voltage is like riding a bike. The first pressure you exert on the pedal is wasted. It doesn't go into forward movement. That's a problem facing electronics engineers. You're losing voltage information from microphones each time you energize a transistor. But that's just one problem, and it's speculation on my part. The other possibility is what everyone tells me, including AI systems. They're using two ADCs. The problem with that is that you can't amplify a microphone voltage twice. Once it's amplified, it's gone. And all you have is the voltage from the amplifier, the signal. That means the second ADC must do work, must extract information from the amplifier voltage that the first ADC missed. I don't believe that's possible. Again, I'm not a degreed engineer, so we can only wait for one to explain and show proof that two ADCs on the same microphone amplified voltages can do more than one ADC. But another ADC could feed a digital signal processor that figures out how to create an audio file that doesn't sound clipped. If that's what Lectrosonics is doing, then it too, sad to say, is marketing BS. It should just say it creates a second DSP processor track with clipping removed. Either way, why didn't Rode say they were using split gain, if they are? The reason is that most consumers fully understand gain in electronics, don't understand gain in electronics circuits in the first place. More data sounds better. 32/24, hell yeah! Because many customers of Electrosonics often have degrees in electrical engineering, they don't need to fool them with large numbers. They just call the technique what it is, split gain. The engineers can figure it out just like I did, and I don't have a degree in engineering. But again, if Lectrosonics is using digital signal processing, it too is misleading. Next question. If it has split gain, why does Lectrosonics still have limiters in their equipment? Probably because it's still the best way to deal with it. If you don't clip, you will get as good a quality as possible. My guess is that with split gain, however they're doing it, you are giving up some fidelity. Therefore, the engineer will decide if that trade-off is worth it or not. Every technique has its pluses and minuses. Fundamentally, there's no magic technology that predicts what an analog voltage will do. Clipping happens because the performer does something we didn't expect. You figure out what risks you want to take, how you want to handle things if they go south, and use the techniques you're comfortable with. Now, in the end, clipping isn't a problem I deal with personally. What drives my passion about this issue is what it represents, the erosion of scientific rigor by marketing departments. Engineers and scientists have a responsibility to push back when marketing distorts hard-won knowledge in physics and technology. We can't let buzzwords and misleading specifications become normalized just because they sell products. Consumers, for their part, should welcome technical criticism, not dismiss it as negativity. When someone challenges a manufacturer's claim, that's healthy skepticism, not trolling. We need robust debate about what products actually do versus the marketing copy promises. The standard should be simple. If you make a technical claim, back it up with evidence, real specifications, white papers, circuit diagrams, not just bigger numbers and vaguer promises. Is that a battle worth fighting? I believe so. Thanks for watching.